Hello and welcome to the Empowered, Sensitive and Creative podcast. My name is Rim. I'm an artist, a certified life coach and an NLP practitioner, and the creator of the Empowered, Sensitive and Creative retreats. Passionate about celebrating joy and beauty in the everyday, especially when things are falling apart, I'm insatiably curious about human nature, and I look into the world with reverence, awe, and a sense of wonder. Tune in for stories exploring healing through creativity, art, embracing sensitivity, and navigating the subconscious mind. I'll talk about the struggles that highly sensitive and creative people face, and share my experiences, insights, and favorite tools along the way. I'm here to empower you to turn what we often deem to be a curse into your biggest gift. I believe that the more we create together, the more we heal the world. So let's dive in. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Empowered, Sensitive and Creative podcast. I'm so happy and grateful for you tuning in. Today I'm joined by Bianca Giulione, the host and creator of Life Forces podcast, a podcast that discusses astrology, human design, transitions, balance, and so much more. Bianca is a cosmic clarity coach based in Greece, helping individuals and facilitating groups to find greater self-knowledge and feel emboldened to live their purpose through the everyday integration of spirituality. She takes a unique, holistic approach to personal growth and well-being, combining different modalities she has learned along her journey, such as tarot, astrology, human design, Ayurveda, breathwork, and Neuro Linguistic Programming, NLP. Bianca is currently the In-house Astrologer at Ora Collective and works with people online from all walks of life and parts of the world. This is a two-part interview series, and this is part 2. If you missed the first episode that aired last week, it was episode 16. I will put the link in the show notes. In that first episode, we talked a lot about Bianca's experience with burnout, her experience with transitioning, moving abroad several times, changing her lifestyle, and how she navigated fear and taking risk as a sensitive and emotional creative soul. Today, in part 2, Bianca explains how we can own our emotional process with astrology. We talk more in depth about the mind-body-spirit connection and navigating conventional business advice as a sensitive and creative soul. The second part is packed with gems, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. Let's dive in. How do you think astrology and human design can help us dealing with our emotions?
Great question. I mean, so if we're talking about emotions specifically, two things that come up, pretty much right away is, in astrology, we can look at our moon sign. Our moon sign is how our emotions are usually going to arise, what makes us feel safe, and our inner world, right? So understanding like the sign that our moon is in and also the house can give us a lot of context. For example, I know my moon is in Virgo, so I know the way that, my inner world works or how my emotions are expressed. I have this tendency to kind of try to categorize and organize my emotions for better or for worse, right? So I can understand that is maybe part of my process, whether or not it works for me, but that's kind of what I'm naturally inclined to do. And I also know that my moon is in the 7th house, which has a lot to do with one-on-one relationships. So I know, for example, I usually feel most comfortable being vulnerable when I'm one-on-one with someone. And I really like those kind of close relationships, for example. And so that's an interesting way to look at emotions from an astrological perspective. Can I ask you something? If I know, for example, yeah,
what do you mean you categorize your emotions? What does it mean?
Okay, so okay,
I never heard that.
Virgo is an earth sign. Okay, yes, let me tell you. So Virgo is an earth sign, But Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury has a lot to do with communication and the mind and all of that. Mm-hmm. So I have a tendency, and if you're of any Virgo moons out there, maybe you can also relate, to kind of intellectualize my emotions. So it's like, I don't know, if I'm feeling something, maybe automatically I'm like, oh, I felt this before, you know, this is about this thing, instead of just like letting myself feel it. You know, I have to have like a logical reason for why I'm feeling something. Like that's kind of what I'm compelled to do. And because Virgo has this very like precise analytical energy, like that's how I tend to process things. It's like I'm automatically analyzing what I'm feeling instead of just feeling it, for example.
Oh, I see. Okay. I think I do that too. Not a Virgo moon, but I do.
Okay.
I don't know if I do it the same way as you do. Maybe I feel obliged to after a while. I'm like, oh, I feel this. And then I like to rationalize things. But maybe it's a different thing. It's because in our culture, we are taught to be logical.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of it is cultural as well. Yeah, for sure, a lot of it is cultural too.
But for you, it's like it would be a little bit different because it would be your natural tendency. And therefore, like, it's not a bad thing. It's just the way you naturally would process things. So also, like, not judging the way we do process things is important here.
Yeah.
It's not good or bad. It's just, is it me? Is it my natural way? Is it my way or not? Or is it something that I learn I should be doing?
Mm-hmm. And then I think it's also like with any sign in astrology, there are traits that are more helpful, and then there are traits that can be not so helpful. Virgo is great because it's very precise and earthy and organized, but it can also be perfectionist and overly critical. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't want to criticize myself for feeling sad. That's not okay. You know what I mean? That's not going to help me. But yeah, one thing I was going to say is, you know, with my Virgo moon, something that like has always come pretty natural to me is like journaling. So I feel like that can help me process my emotions to journal, right? Because Virgo is ruled by Mercury, which is such an intellectual planet about communication. So putting things in writing helps. And then also because Virgo is an earth sign and can have a lot to do with health and nature and plants, like for sure, like part of my journey has been about really understanding the mind-body connection. And yeah, I really have to be mindful about what I eat and what I do with my body because it completely affects my mind. I think it affects everyone's, but for me, I really had to learn that. Understanding the correlation between what you put into your body and your mental health, like that does affect everyone. But I just feel like for me, also because of different things in my chart, that's a lesson that I really, really had to learn. And I feel like I do have to be extra careful about that kind of thing.
Yeah. We had conversation about this because we are both generator about the sacral and the role of, like, sacral is the gut, listening to your gut, and well, gut, the digestion, and digestion, food. And we talked about how eating what's good for you, like healthily for you, is super important in order to be in touch with your intuition. And intuition is not emotions, but it's like, how can you listen to your intuition if you are overwhelmed by your emotion? It's much harder. So it's kind of connected.
Yeah. Or I think exactly, like if your digestion is off physically, that messes up so many different processes in your brain, you know, and that can lead to mental health problems. So yeah, one thing that's been really important for me is I wasn't necessarily a very spiritual person before I had health and mental health issues. And then through learning how to treat my body better and finding physical balance, I was able to find mental balance and then was kind of naturally led to a more spiritual way of perceiving things.
Yeah, I experienced the same. It's crazy. how some foods exacerbates some emotions, and it really affects mental health and also clarity. Also, this feeling of being here, of being connected to my body as well. I see a big difference. When I eat too much sugar, I'm here, but I'm not here.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, so learning about the moon, especially the moon sign, would help us to regulate, like to understand how we process our emotions. So because we all process emotions in a different way. Am I right? According to astrology.
Yeah, more or less. There's 12 different moon signs, so there's going to be a lot of variations between that. Yeah.
So are there some signs that are more emotional? Because I know, like, I'm a Pisces moon, and it is said that Pisces, they're so emotional. But is it true? Like, can we be more? Can a sign be more emotional than others, or is it just that some signs just display their emotions more than others, or that they just talk about it more than others, or they do actually feel them more?
Yeah. Yes. So for sure, it would depend on a lot of different factors. So when you said, display their emotions more, I'm thinking about someone actually with a moon in a fire sign. If someone has like a Sagittarius moon, they might not be shy about their feelings. They might be okay with just saying them out loud, like blurting them out loud. You would also have to look at, how are the other planets interacting with the moon, right? So for example, if someone has the planet Mercury, which is about communication, very close to their moon, or, in a certain configuration with the moon, they might be someone that's more willing to speak about their feelings, right? That might come very naturally to them. So it depends on different factors. I would say, if you think of a moon in a water sign, or especially like the moon in Cancer is ruled by the moon, we would maybe perceive that as more of like a stereotypical emotional person. But just because they feel things really deeply doesn't necessarily mean they'll express it in a way, right? We don't know. I don't know. I would have to look at a person's chart to get a clearer picture of how they might actually express their emotions. But I would say, for sure, water sign moons will feel things very deeply, just very generally speaking. Air signs might have a tendency to intellectualize the emotions, or maybe also want to talk about them in a certain way. Fire signs can be more about, taking action or being really bold when it comes to emotions, maybe being a bit impulsive. And then earth moon signs can sometimes be a little bit detached. It depends. I think someone like a Taurus moon isn't so detached to their emotions. They can have quite a sensual experience of their emotions, if that makes sense. But maybe someone like a Capricorn moon would be a little more detached, just speaking very generally.
Okay. So how interesting. So does it mean also, is it just about the moon, or overall in our charts, like someone with more water energy in general, even if, imagine they don't have their moon in a water sign, but the rest of their chart is very watery, does it also mean that they would, like, generally there would be a more sensitive or emotional influence in the way they handle their life?
Yeah, that would be a big factor. I mean, in astrology, we look at things globally, that's why, like, to just know someone's sun, moon, and rising, okay, I can get like a little bit of a picture of who they are, but to see the whole chart, to see how the elements are balanced out, to see how everything's configured with each other, to see, what houses the planets are in, right? Because the houses are different areas of life. So if you have your planets in, let's say you have a lot of planets in the 10th house. The 10th house is the house of career and public reputation. So even if someone's a water sign and has a lot of water energy, but they have a big concentration of planets in the 10th house, they might be like quite ambitious, you know, and even if they got all these feelings and, you know, deep emotions, they might still be really motivated towards having an impressive career, right? And building a lot of resources for themselves. So it's so important to see everything holistically.
Yeah, well, actually, having emotions, I think, is not contrary to having a career.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, like, if we're looking at things in terms of elements, you know, for example, the 10th house is associated with Capricorn, and Capricorn's an earth sign. That's the only reason why I made a bit of a contrast. Of course, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't mean anything. Like, a Cancer sun can have an impressive career. I'm just saying it's interesting to see how the different things are playing together.
Yeah, I so agree. And that's also what I always say to highly sensitive people. You are not only a highly sensitive person. This is just one trait. Like, it's a big trait, of course. It does influence a lot, but it's not only, you're not only that. Or if someone is an empath, like a HSV and an empath, yes, you are this, but you're not only those. It's a combination of so many things, and you cannot just reduce yourself to these characteristics, even though they do influence your life a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I think also, yeah, labels can come and go, right? We're fluid beings. We're meant to grow and expand in different ways. And it's okay if, you know, something you identified with a few years ago or when you were a kid doesn't suit you anymore. It's okay to just say, okay, that's not me anymore. It's fine. That was me for a while. It's all good.
Yeah, we evolve.
Mm-hmm.
How did you know that astrology and human design was the right path for you? Do you think it's gonna be forever, or is it maybe like just a transition? What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, even with my, you know, journalism career, I never like set out to be a journalist. It kind of seems like so far in my life, I've kind of gone with the flow a lot of the time. Like, I studied art history in university, and then I sort of started working in that world. It didn't really fit. So then, you know, I got into music and music journalism and just kind of went with that. And then similarly with all this stuff, I just kind of stumbled into it and really enjoyed it. It sort of started with, I guess I was kind of learning a bit about astrology before I knew about Ayurveda, but then Ayurveda was a major thing for me. I got my first tarot deck. I learned about human design, and then I was kind of just getting into all these things all together at the same time. And it's kind of an accident that I'm doing what I'm doing now. I started giving free tarot readings at the beginning of COVID, like through Zoom or video or whatever. And then it kind of snowballed. And then I kind of came up with my own methods and stuff as I was doing it. Because I'd be giving tarot readings, then I'm like, oh, I'd be able to give you way better advice if I knew your astrology and human design. So that's kind of how things evolved to where I am today and what I'm doing.
So you kind of followed what lit you up and saw what would happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't have any plan. You know, it's just like at the time I knew I wanted to have my own business, but at the beginning I thought I was going to start an herbal tea business and maybe do some Ayurveda client work, but that didn't happen at all, right? I've never had, like, to be honest, a grand plan for my career. I've just like had different things that I've liked to do and just kind of see what happens from that. And even now, like, I love what I do, but I still have ideas for other things I want to do. And I'm still starting those other things and working on those other things. I don't know if there will be like a time where I have to choose the newer things and stop doing this. I have no idea. Like, I'm just going to see what happens.
Yeah. I love that, because often we think, oh, I must find the right idea. I need to find the right thing. And if it doesn't work, well, I'm screwed. That's why I'm not going to do it, because I'm not sure it's going to work. And then we wait. But the only way to know what's right is to do it. It's to try, experiment. And also, like we said a lot, life changes. It's like life is not permanent. Everything changes. So of course, as you evolve, as you grow, you grow. Like when you work for somebody, when you work in a career, you're not, well, not everyone, but usually you kind of don't expect to do the same job, the same position, at the same place all your life. So why not? It's not good. Why wouldn't it be the same if you work on your own, if you work on your creative projects, if you do, like if you're your own boss and all that? Why not allowing yourself this? I think sometimes we can be our worst boss. And we tend to criticize the workplace or the boss somewhere. But then when we realize, actually, am I treating myself like as an employee, like as the boss I would like to have? Like sometimes we forget about that.
Oh yeah, that's something I know. I have to check myself with that a lot. I'm just like, you haven't taken a break? Like you wouldn't even do this at your old job, like, come on. Like, let yourself have a lunch break. Let yourself go for a walk outside. And also, I didn't put so much pressure on myself when I was working for other people. Yes, it's different because a lot of, everything's up to me. But at the same time, to put a ton of pressure on myself is not going to help me do better. If you have a boss breathing down your neck, telling you to perform more, do better, whatever, it doesn't help you do a better job necessarily. You just get freaked out and you're like, this is so unhelpful. So it's like, why am I doing that to myself then? Why? Especially when I chose this path to do things on my own terms.
Exactly. It's like somehow we feel guilty or we don't dare, or it's crazy. That leads me to to talk about business and traditional business advice. I felt personally that traditional business advice hindered my creativity. It made me feel stifled, and I felt like I have this, like if I do, because I did before, when I had my fashion brand 10 years ago, I went through, like initially it helped me to learn about business because I didn't know anything. So it gave me some basis and structure. But then I wanted to learn more. I thought maybe that's the reason why my business is growing, but maybe not growing fast enough. I need to know more about traditional business. And I remember I was like partnering with kind of, these groups who help young entrepreneurs, blah, blah, blah. And they were not forcing me. They told me you have to do it this way. And they had all of these spreadsheets and boards, and they say you have to put this and like you have to think about like next year how much you're gonna make and every month, and it's gonna be like this. And I was like, what? How can they know? I thought I was the crazy one because I was totally unable to know exactly what was gonna happen the next month, at least in my business. How can I know? Things for me, they flow, they evolve, and I don't want to be tied to so because I said that next June I'm going to do that, so now I have to do that, and it's like What was your experience with that?
Yeah. Oh, I felt a lot of that, especially at the time that I was working with a business coach. She was a very, very nice lady. But I remember, part of working with her is I did have to put together like a formal business plan. And this was the herbal tea, whatever Ayurveda business. But yeah, I remember like creating the spreadsheet, and she's like, okay, so this is your first month, and then the next month you're gonna double, and then you're gonna double, and then it's gonna like maybe not double each month, but like she was just like making the numbers bigger and bigger each month. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. And this is like really intimidating. Of course, it's good to have goals and ambitions and, stretch yourself a little bit. But I was just like, is this what having a business is? Like putting bigger numbers each month on a spreadsheet and like doing everything in your power to just make more money every month. I was like, yeah. Oh God, I did not like that. I really didn't like that at all. But I think it is important.
How was your sacral?
Oh, my sacral at that point was like, hell no. But it was good that it was a hell no, because it also really helped me realize this is not the business I want to have. Because it was also like, if I wanted to have this herbal tea business, I couldn't keep making teas at my house. I had to get a commercial kitchen, and everything in my body was like, no, we don't want to get a commercial kitchen. We don't want to have to worry about that rent and that hassle and getting things inspected and all that. So it was totally a blessing. It was totally a blessing. And I think it is important to understand some business fundamentals. But I just don't know if when you're at the very beginning of a business, especially when you're still a little bit unsure about what you're doing or what kind of products or services you want to have, to put these things in such concrete numbers can be very intimidating, and to me can be counterproductive.
I think it limits your creativity. It puts you in a box, and it kind of gives a lot of pressure, and yes, counterproductive, because you feel like you tried something and you feel like you have to stay in that lane, even if it's not right for you. It's not, it's like totally not intuitive. And yes, intuition is not everything. We also, but you know, like when I read testimonials or like biographies from big entrepreneurs, they always say, they don't say, oh, I stick to my numbers. They don't say, oh, the success of my business is I made some big boxes and I stick to my numbers. No, they always say, I listen to my gut, I listen to my intuition more than everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And especially when you're doing something more creative, you know?
It's not like an accounting or whatever or business.
Or if you have a very obvious like product-based business, then maybe it makes sense to have those kind of projections. But if you're going with the flow, seeing what feels right, you know, you have this offer this month, you have a different offer next month, it can be hard to fit into that mold. And it's okay to not fit into it, you know, as I was saying, not to say that, you know, business fundamentals aren't important, but as a creative entrepreneur, you got to be okay with doing things a little bit differently, and with being okay with saying, you know what, that little business advice does not suit me, and that's okay, right? But it's also like, for me, for example, I think because I came from a writing background, I didn't think that I had to worry about copywriting or messaging things in a certain way. And now I'm realizing that that is something I want to improve in my business. So it's also being humble enough to be like, even though I think I have these skills, do I really, you know, is that showing up in my revenue or in the clients coming in or in whatever? So yeah, I got to a point a few weeks ago where I was like, okay, I'm a writer, but doesn't mean I'm the best copywriter in the world. And so now I'm spending some time like working on those skills and being okay with like, you know, yes, my intuition can help me write Instagram captions, but like maybe I need a little bit of support and more knowledge in writing a sales page or in being able to describe my offers better.
I think it's a blend. I agree with you. It's a blend. It's like learning those stuff. Yeah, being humble enough, actually experimenting and being curious also means learning, but not letting yourself overridden, over control by those things, by those rules or by those techniques. I think it's the same in art, actually. If you only create an art piece just following the technique, then actually the technique is owning you. Your art would be kind of constricted, and you feel it's, you kind of feel the energy is tightened. It's like like this is not really you. But if you use your technique, you mastered some technique, you have a technique, and you still let your intuition, your inspiration guide you, then it's beautiful. Then you know the piece is open, then it's flowing or blossoming. It's ready. It's
letting your own style be a part of what it is you do. And I think especially as, you know, us creative entrepreneurs, like what we do is so personal. Like, yes, we're serving people, but we're serving people in our own unique way. So you can't just like take some cookie cutter business advice and like think if you apply all the principles, it's totally going to work for you. Even if the framework is good, you got to add your own style in there. You know, you got to make it your own.
Yes. And also life changes fast, especially nowadays. I think things are evolving quite fast. So it's important to also be able to bounce back faster and, you know, like resilient and adapt. It doesn't mean like, I'm not saying you need to change every 5 minutes. That's also unstable and that would also be counterproductive. But kind of know, like, going with the flow also.
Yeah.
Not being rigid. Yeah.
Yeah. And also when new, for example, I'm thinking of something like ChatGPT, and when it kind of emerged earlier this year, so many people that I follow or just things that I stumbled upon on social media was like, you have to use ChatGPT for your copywriting and for your business. And like, this is the thing that's going to make you rich and going to save you hours and hours of effort. And like, I checked in with myself and I was like, this is a huge no. This is a huge no. I even like went to the website and like then realized I had to make an account. And, even looking at the registering for the account, I'm like, this is not going to happen for me, at least right now. Never say never, but like, I don't care how many people tell me how much money they make from using ChatGPT for God knows what. I'm not touching this thing with a 50-foot pole for now. You know what I mean? So it's just making sure like, there's people out there with great business advice and you can find amazing, like free business advice, but if it doesn't resonate with you, it's okay to not listen to it. Like you will be fine. You will find your own way of doing things.
Yes. Business advice, yes, but it depends who from. Does it resonate with you? And because you are the master of your life and of your business. I mean, the business has its own life, but you're kind of the one guiding. You're the driver. And what did I want to say? I forgot. I wanted to say something else. Shoot. Oh, no, I just wanted to say that some people, like all those people who say, oh, I made money doing that. I don't believe it. Some may have, but I think they are actually hoping they will make money from the thing they said they made money with. They're actually making money from us believing them and buying from that. So that's how they make money.
Like buying the ChatGPT course that they're selling. I know. It's so important to be like very discerning with all that kind of stuff for sure.
Yeah, totally. I wanted to ask you, what were your dreams as a kid? Oh, I should have asked you this earlier.
Oh, that's okay. It doesn't matter when it's asked. Okay, I'm trying to think. I was a strange little kid in a lot of ways. I remember when I was around 7, we went on a trip to Australia because we had some family that lived in Australia. And my dad's cousin was talking about going to the psychiatrist and like describing a dream to her psychiatrist and whatever. And I was just like, wow, that's so cool. So when I was 7, I wanted to be a psychiatrist. Also around the same time, I wanted to be a fashion designer. So I wanted to be like a fashion designer and a psychiatrist. And then at one point I wanted to work for the UN or something. I think at one point when I was a little bit older, like maybe 10 or 11, we had to, write some kind of little essay about, what we wanted to do when we grew up. And I was like, I want to be a fashion designer and work for the UN at the same time. Yeah, those are my dreams for the most part. Yeah.
How cool. So what do you think about what you're doing now compared to your dreams?
I think it's interesting because, even as I was starting university, I started university studying psychology, thinking I would get into that field. And then, I had my first like psychology 101 class in a room with like 600 people. And I'm like, I hate this. And so I decided to study art history, partially because when I did a little bit of art history in high school, I really liked it. And it was just very easy for me. And partially because this guy that I thought was cool was studying art history. So that's how I got into it. And I don't know, I think like younger me would be really surprised that I was doing something a little more unconventional, because when I was younger and even in high school, I was very like, I could be quite serious about things, and I always thought I would really go kind of far in academia or have a more like serious job. But then once I got into my 20s, I realized, and I was okay with the fact that I was a more creative person. Yeah. Cause I don't know. I found, school and studying an easy way to like get praise and to like be good at life. So, I kind of like carried that with me, even though I was maybe more of a creative person. So I think honestly, younger me would be like a bit surprised, but also like, that's cool as long as you're happy.
What strikes me is the fashion design and art history. I find that both of those fields, they're related to understand people's behaviors in a way, and like society as a whole, society, culture, and the way people think and do things. A little bit. I mean, art history is not only about that, but kind of. And well,
no, I like the perspective.
Definitely. And it's also creative. And then the UN, well, it's also related to people.
Yeah.
And it's also about, you know, society and culture and people as a whole and organization and how things work and how we can bring harmony.
Totally. And yeah, I think now I kind of realize how things have come full circle in that, you know, when I work with my clients, like, it's funny. I had a client the other week that's like, you know, I don't want to treat you like a therapist, but blah, 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 blah. And like, I'm totally fine with that because I do understand that what I do as a coach, there is a therapeutic aspect and I'm totally okay with that. And I love that. I love helping people and I love helping people understand themselves better so that they can move through things better. So it's interesting how I came to that, you know, not through going to med school and becoming a psychiatrist, but, you know, through studying astrology and human design and other things and just kind of, I don't know, always enjoying the process of like listening to people and understanding them and giving advice. And yeah, how that's kind of turned into what I do without me planning it so much.
I love that. I feel the same. That's so true. I feel the same with the therapeutical aspect of things. I didn't want you to study psychology. I felt no, it's a no. I don't want to spend hours in academia for that. But then I'm so fascinated by the way people think and all of that, that in a way I found my own way to. So I think that's the best way for you. Like when you find your own way to do things, you still get somewhere. Like you think you like psychology, but it doesn't mean you're going to be a therapist. It could be linked to that. Like it's like releasing the attachment to exactly what form the thing is going to take.
Yeah.
And allowing.
And to be honest, I'm glad I've never really had those attachments, you know, in terms of like, I don't know. I think I've always been open to like things evolving in a certain way. And I've tried different things when it comes to my career. I was never that person that was like, I'm going to be a psychiatrist. And if I don't do that, I'm a failure. Like that was never me. Can't tell you the reason why. That's just like the way things worked out and the way I was.
Trusty and flowy.
Yeah. At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely. Listen, if a genie appeared and granted you 3 wishes, what would they be?
Ooh. One thing I would like a little bit of financial help, like just a little bit. Like you can give me like multiple $1 million, but even just a little bit would be cool. So that's one thing. I would also ask for my dream home, probably where I'm living now, but just like, you know, my vision of what I have in mind, which is like by the sea, really beautiful, comfortable furniture, nice bookshelf. Yeah, like that is something that is one of my goals in life. Like I love a nice home situation. And the third one, oh my gosh. Okay, the third one that comes to mind might get me a little bit emotional, but I would love, my dad passed a couple years ago, and I would love to be able to like spend a day with him again. Yeah, that's what comes to me. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing.
Of course.
And tell me, what does it mean for you being an empowered, sensitive, and creative?
I think it is, you know, being okay with being a more sensitive person, because I think I used to just sort of tell myself like, people are supposed to be like this, like you're not, you're supposed to be on time and not express your big emotions and just, do things a certain way. So being okay with that, accepting that I might do things a little bit differently. And yeah, just, learning new things about myself every day. And yeah, I really just think the main thing is to be okay with doing things my way and differently, and not comparing that to how I think other people are doing things.
Yeah. Comparison is a big thing. So instead comparing to like, what I'm doing, is it what I really want? You can compare with yourself or with your intentions, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or just, is what I'm doing aligned with my values? Is this what I need right now? It's like, even very simply, it's like, am I pushing myself through this workday, or is it a better time for me to just like have a little nap or like lie down? Like even very simple things like that, I think can make a big difference in the long run. And yeah, just trusting also that your own way of doing things is correct. And that also is, having to do with comparison perhaps, but yeah, trusting it, and also just reminding yourself, like, would you really want to do it another way if it doesn't feel right to you,
Totally. Yes. Beautiful. And if you were a color, what would you be?
I think today I'm feeling like a nice sea blue. Yeah.
And a texture?
Yeah. Maybe like a cloud-like texture.
Oh, lovely.
Mm-hmm.
And a scent?
A scent. Let's just go with the sea theme. So like a nice, refreshing kind of sea salt smell.
I'm already smelling it.
Yeah.
And
now I
a
want to go to
sound.
the beach.
Yeah, but you can go.
A sound. Yeah. I'm going to continue like the waves coming in and out. Maybe the wind is blowing. You hear the wind a little bit too. Yeah.
That's very relaxing. Lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. And now, how can people find out more about you? How can they work with you? Like, do you take clients at the moment?
Yes. So my website is lifeforcesinc.com, and you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at lifeforcesinc. I've got something I'm working on now that, if all goes according to plan, will be released on the day that this podcast airs. Let's see what happens. I would like to stick to that timeline, but who knows? So that'll be a new offering that's a little more self-directed. And then, of course, if you are interested in working with me one-on-one in my cosmic clarity coaching situation, I am probably not taking on new clients until end of August, but you can, look at what I've got on my website. You can like schedule a free call with me and we can, talk about what it would be like to work together. But I'm also kind of reconfiguring that. But yeah, you'll find updates on my website, my social media. I have an email newsletter, and I also started a podcast. So you can find the Life Forces podcast pretty much everywhere. I hope it will be on Apple Podcasts by the time this comes out, because I've had issues with it. I don't really know what's happening, but let's see.
Oh, interesting. Mercury's having trouble.
Well, Mercury hasn't been retrograde, so I don't really know what to blame, quite frankly, but it's really weird. I submitted the podcast to Apple like almost a month ago. It's not up. I contacted support yesterday finally, so let's see.
For me, it worked in 2 days.
What the hell? Okay, I don't know what's happening.
And it was Mercury retrograde.
Wow. Okay. I don't know what
strange.
is happening, but let's see. Anyway, it's for sure on Spotify and Google Podcasts. So there you go.
Okay. Well, so it's a podcast about astrology, human design, or more than that?
It's about a lot of different things. I mean, I named my company Life Forces because I like working with different things. You know, I don't just stick to one thing or the other. My first episode was actually about my journey with Ayurveda and how it helped me with mental health and spirituality. An episode that just dropped, I did the astrology of Q3, so July, August, and September of this year. And for sure, I'll be diving more into human design, holistic health, soul purpose, alignment, and all that great stuff.
Wow. Sounds really interesting and exciting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else you would like to share or to add or to say before we wrap up?
No, I just want to say thanks to everyone listening. And if anyone is in a position where they feel discouraged or things aren't going right, you know, things are changing all the time. This thing's not going to last forever, whatever it is you're going through. And yeah, don't be afraid to try new things and also feel your feelings fully.
Feel your feelings. Definitely. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks a lot, Bianca. It was lovely having you on and talking with you.
Thank you so much, Rim. Total pleasure. Great chat. Love this so much.
Yes, me too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that's it. It's the end of my conversation with Bianca. That was part 2. I hope you find it insightful, inspiring. Perhaps you didn't know that much about astrology and didn't know how much it could be helpful, and this gave you the motivation to look more into it. Or maybe you were already familiar with astrology, but this acted as a reminder to keep learning about it. Personally, I've been reading about it for a few, I think, maybe five years that I've been learning a little bit, but like when I say learning, it's just my chart. Like I'm not at that professional level at all, but still, I mean, it's such a mine of information that every time I read about it, I'm learning something more, and it's like it's sinking a little bit deeper into my consciousness. So I find it's always interesting to hear about it. If this resonates with you and you would love to learn more about how to reconnect to yourself, how to listen to your body, how to connect to your senses, how to be more in touch with your authenticity so that you can lead life according to your own terms, I'd love to invite you to join me and a small group of like-minded souls for a very special retreat in beautiful Provence for 5 magical days to reignite your dormant dreams and desires while cultivating new and exciting possibilities. This will be next June, 6th to 11th of June 2024, so it's next year, and I call it an enchanted interlude in the Biosphere Reserve of Luberon Regional Nature Park. This is lovely place in the south of France. There is a kind of magic vibe to that place. Particularly beautiful in June, with the various shades of greens of the Garrigue and the azure blue sky, the vibrant ochres of the Provençal Colorado, is a natural paradise that invites your heart to soar. This amazing retreat will touch on all your senses and all aspects of your being: physical, emotional, mind, creative, and soul. You'll walk the ochre canyons, listen to the sounds of wildlife, share laughters, give free rein to your creative expression, and relax into rediscovering lost dreams and new possibilities as you celebrate and uncover the next chapter of your life. We will meet our inner wisdom through mindful and creative practices led by me and other local healers: sketching, drawing, watercolor painting, wildlife birdsong reflexology, walks in nature, a cooking workshop, and a herbalist walk. By the end of our 5 nights together, you'll be relaxed, re-inspired, and ready to dive into the next chapter of your life with clarity and newfound confidence in yourself. If this is for you, you can find all the information on my website, creativenergy.com, and I also put all the links in the show notes. If you have further questions, you are not entirely sure if this is for you, or you would like to learn more, to know more about the retreat, feel free to reach out. I am now opening 30 minutes free exploration calls. I'm calling this Retreat Exploration Chats, where you can ask all the questions you have and I can tell you more about the retreat and we can see together if this is the right thing for you. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if it has inspired you, please share it around you. Also, if you feel called to it, please subscribe to the podcast and leave me a review. It really helps to spread the word out. All your questions are welcome. You can send them to me on Instagram at rim.creativenergy.com or email me via my website, rimcreativenergy.com. And don't worry, I'll share in the show notes exactly where to find me. Until next time, sending you loving creative energy.